And welcome back, everybody, to another HomeStory Cup Qualifier. I'm, of course, your host, Light VIP, and with me, joining me for the HomeStory Cup Oceania and Rest of Asia Qualifier, we have the one, the only, the casting cat himself, but now with a brand new camera. Welcome, Chase.
Hello, thank you. Welcome, person with old camera who can't afford a new one.
I can't.
Another reason I'm the true caster of the duo, but yes, we're here, Light, and this time we are representing some of our homegrown boys, so awesome. Today is going to be good fun.
Oh yeah, mate, it is going to be great. We've already been popping off recently with all the HomeStory Cup qualifiers, but now we are here not just with our region, but the final region. We have already qualified players from everywhere else, and it is only Oceania left.
That's right, and spot up for grabs. It's quite a good one, would you say, Light? It's a lot to fight for, and HomeStory Cup has been in the region quite a long time, so a lot of good players have shown up, which means we got a lot of games on our hands. But anyway, starting with the first game, spawning in the top left position. Currently, it seems like he's repping himself. It's the Terran from Brisbane, the blue Terran. Give it up for Azure.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Berlingrad LE, we have the Filipino Zerg player himself representing the Juggernauts. It is EnDerr. Oh boy, and mate, not gonna lie, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that we have a TVZ here, especially because similarly to Pez, Azure here has also been playing a lot of off-race.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say also surprised because Protoss is broken, but yeah, it's the first round. Still the other two races still around. No, I'm kidding. Protoss is alright. But yeah, Berlingrad LE, as we see, looks like Azure going to be going for those middle minerals, and this can open up a pathway. Do you think he's going to do anything with this later on in the game, Light, or it's just to, you know, keep the Zerg on their toes?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, like, with this, especially if he opens up with a 1-1-1, he's going to have multiple avenues to dip in with his Hellions and try and deny that creep, so, I mean, it may help him in the long run. Just a little bit of a quirk here that we're getting on Berlingrad. I think more importantly, something that we have to savor as well are some of these maps. I don't know if you've been hearing, but we are actually using the new map pool in the ESL Cups now. Like, we're slowly transitioning over, so, you know, at some point, we're not going to see Berlingrad anymore.
That's right, and Berlingrad, it's an interesting map, as we see Azure coming here, picks off a Ling, maybe try and pick off a second. No, he's going to be careful with the Queen coming, but as you said, you know, Berlingrad, it's a map that's evolved quite a bit. Queen gets sent flying. But we see something interesting here. We've got to inject first by EnDerr, Light. Ling speed on the way. It looks like EnDerr's staying on gas. Do you think this is any indicative of his strategy here, or do you think he's just going to be, you know, it's just EnDerr?
See, this is where you're making an interesting assumption, and that is trying to analyze one of the Zerg Meta triangle. Of course, being EnDerr, Mio Micah, Go Joey, they kind of have their own kind of spin to things. And there are times where a player like EnDerr, you know, may kind of play a certain way, and it may be actually a little bit inefficient, but like he makes it work anyway. Like even here, he's going for Overlord speed. Oh my god.
Overlord in speed, and keep in mind he's still keeping on gas.
Yeah.
No third base yet, so we see Azure is going to try to dip in the main. He's going to see that drone on the return and see the third base, but with the Overlord speed, it's not common. Kind of, as the Reaper gets picked off, it's not a common kind of opening, so maybe a little bit concerned. But we see here, we have a fusion core on the way, Light.
Yeah, exactly. We're popping off, mate, for both of our players. EnDerr with this weird pneumatized carapace build. With this, obviously, he can get a full scout off and actually get into the main. I guess it may even be an adaptation because of the lack of the perf pillar here across the map. Meanwhile, Azure, he actually makes use of that mineral patch. He dives on in. There are only a handful of links here to stop him, and he gets into the mineral line.
He does indeed. These Lings, they get a reasonable surround, and good return to pull the drones away. Looks like it's going to get cleaned up. And I have to say, for 3 drones, was that 4 Hellions? That seemed the most worthwhile.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Like, it wasn't worth it at all. Meanwhile, here we go. We do have the Overlord Scout. He dives on in. He avoids the Marines. And even if the Marines were in position because of the Overlord speed, he sees everything. And this has kind of paid for itself. EnDerr now knows for certain what Azure is doing.
Yeah, he does indeed. Really good scout, catches the fusion core. This is where EnDerr's build, it's a little strange, you know, when you invest into Overlord speed, when you delay your third base, and you get a lair this fast, your queen count is really low, as we see. He's only got 4 queens on the field. And that BC, it's not too far away from popping, so interesting to see. Yeah, he's throwing down Spore Crawlers now, but I think this BC, if he skirts it between the triangle third and the main, you could get quite a bit of damage here, so if you micro as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Azure may be aware of that because, I mean, he had eyes on this. He knows how late that third base is. He knows how few queens there are available to EnDerr. Despite that, EnDerr, you know, he's throwing down as many spores as he can. He's pumping out as many queens as he can. And even though this may not have been the most ideal opener for him, he may have enough regardless to defend against that first PC as it teleports across the map.
That's right, teleports in. I really like the Spore Crawler position between the triangle third and the main base, as Azure dies with the Hellions, get deflected by the queens, not what you kind of expect, and that's going to prompt him to go a bit deeper with this battle cruiser because those queens are out of position. But again, with the Spore and 2 queens to support, good drone pull. Azure may not get the most damage here.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, the Hellions also have to deal with these Lings. Thankfully, they do not get surrounded, and this BC only gets 2 drones. Like, that was actually very well handled by EnDerr. Can't transfuse.
Needs to be careful. Might even lose the queen. Oh, there we go. This is transfuse. Interesting counter we see. Oh, that is such a weak battle. Man. But EnDerr straight away, we see, you know, that very economic kind of safe opening, and just transforming it into an aggressive one as he gets an Overlord drop across the map. It looks like he might go for a drop here with some Banelings.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, a little bit greedy here, taking the 4th base, and we have to see a cancel here. EnDerr, please, no, not. Okay, we do see a cancel just in time. And also, I agree, I've never seen a BC this low. It's disgusting. Hopefully, it does get sniped. Oh, that's a kill!
That's so greedy, man. He got away with it. But we see here, exactly, I guess, these high-level players, they know what they can get away with, especially when there's creep. They see the queens. Queen range did get nerfed, so maybe in a different patch timeline that wouldn't have happened. But good snipe there for Azure.
Mate, my Zerg heart bleeds seeing this health battlecruiser kill a 4th base. Ugh. I feel so bad here for EnDerr, but we'll see if he can reciprocate the damage. He is going for that drop lord again because he has Overlord speed. That does mean that there's a high chance that this is going to deal some damage, but at the same time, Azure is moving out with his main army.
Yeah, he is, and it's a bit of not the most potent push. There's only 1 tank, but this early on in the game, that many Stim Marines, you know, they can pack quite a punch. So we see 1-1 is not yet finished yet, but light, we have Bane speed for EnDerr.
Yeah, we do, and there we go, a decent connection here with some of those Marines. At the same time, the tank is exposed. You were talking about it, only a single tank, not a lot of staying power. It also gets cleaned up, and at the same time, that drop lord is going into that main.
Into the main, indeed. Is Azure going to react? He's microing his Marines. He's got down. He's got a micro to the full potential. It's like 11 SCVs going down light, while Azure is kind of under a bit of duress here.
Exactly, and to be fair, you could argue that EnDerr needed to deal this damage because, again, he lost the base. Like, it was killed. Like, that's a lot of resources down the drain, so thankfully he's able to even things up a little bit. EnDerr doing EnDerr things. His drone count also not looking that amazing either. I'm surprised. Azure, despite losing all those workers, still ahead in the SCV count.
Man, Azure's actually looking really good in this game. Gets the scan off, sees the macro hatch, sees an extractor being taken. Nothing too much to worry about. We see the Hydra down at the natural, however, he did not manage to see. This is a choice I'm not too sure with EnDerr. He's going for +1 range already. Makes sense in hindsight, but when you're going up against Bio, you really kind of want that carapace that benefits both units. You know, +2 melee is really good, and +1 range, it can be okay. It helps with the DPS for those Hydras, but it's kind of best when you have Ling Bane to kind of tank for your Hydras. You want an upgrade to kind of keep that, you know, the wall there while the glass cannon Hydras deal their damage. So not too sure how I feel about this light.
Yeah, I also, like, I don't know how wise it is to tech this quickly on this drone count specifically, right? Where we're going into an infestation pit, we're going into Hydras, we're going into all these upgrades as well. That's a lot of gas that EnDerr may not necessarily have right now. I mean, it's his choice. He's going for it anyway, and I guess if he keeps his Hydras alive anyway, he can eventually morph them into lurkers, so he can still work with this. I'm just a little bit concerned for him if he doesn't drone up soon.
Yeah, that's right. Like, in the end, you know, it's his brood, it's his choice, and he's pulled off some magnificent stuff before that seems quite wacky, but Yeah, as you said, like it seems very kind of risky. I guess the kind of tech is this battle cruiser does get saved. Good jump by Azure, but given on the map Berlingrad too, and he's got fantastic creep spread which will aid him, but against Terran, like when you're even on workers, you know those mules come into account, and yeah, it's just Azure's almost maxed out. Like this is interesting to see where EnDerr goes from here.
Exactly. I mean, even though we do see a supply advantage in favor of Azure, EnDerr can still take a miracle fight. You know, Ling Bane can still do a lot of damage depending on the positioning here, but things are looking a little bit dire for him. 28 more Lings are on the way, Hive are on the way, Hive is on the way as well, and Azure isn't really committing to a big push. He's kind of poking and prodding, ooh, runs into the army, but again, this is just a handful of Marines. His main army is still just chilling at home.
Yep, as we see a drop in the top right gets cleaned up as well. This is kind of the moves really good by Azure here, kind of to trigger the Banelings as he takes the Hive, but just controlling each side of the map. At the very least, he can keep an eye on the creep, maybe just like stay right side it, kind of slow it down. But just looking at the creep spread from EnDerr, like it's almost at Azure's like third base already. This is cause for concern as you can hit the sides, that eventually if they're attacking you, the creep outside your natural is going to be the problem.
Oh yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, speaking of attacking, here we go. EnDerr, he's just pushing in towards that fourth base location. The Marines weren't really split up either. The tanks, some of them are even on siege, but the Ling Bane gets eviscerated. Now we only have Hydras, and I mean, at least they have that range upgrade. But I don't know how well Hydras are gonna do here, puppy.
That's right, as you see, Azure F2ing because his medevacs are coming all the way alongside. I have to call him out. But yeah, coming into creep now, and I'm not sure he was prepared for this amount of units by EnDerr. They were chilling at home defending from the medevac, and it looks like still, reasonable trades by EnDerr, but Azure still has quite a force, and when the economy is just even, like, and Zerg's not ahead, I don't mind this for Azure.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but here we go. We see the full surround as well. These tanks are so exposed. They're going to get picked up one after the other, and these are trades that maybe Azure can't afford. We'll see if he can survive this. Another tank gets picked up. Only one remaining here. Now it's just Marine against Hydras, but Lings are flooding on in. It looks like EnDerr may just barely have enough.
Yeah, actually, it does look like that indeed. And Azure's churning out 12 Marines at a time, 2 more tanks popping, and it looks like he's going to hold here, and yeah, it seems he's stabilized, and the Hydra count for EnDerr, that's the thing. Like once your Ling Bane's gone, they're going to be taking the brunt, and they're quite squishy. So Hydra count a little bit low, but still quite potent on creep.
Yeah, that's the scary thing, right? You never want to be losing Hydras en masse like that, like we just saw. EnDerr, he had triple the amount that we see now, so now he has to rebuild them, especially if he wants to go into lurkers. That's probably the biggest thing I'm surprised about, is that we don't have a lurker den. He's going Ling, Bane, Hydra, Viper right now, which can work. Fun fact, I think over the weekend, Ragnarok actually used this in the late game, never even went into lurkers and still made it work anyway. It is possible to use, but like, yeah, it's you need your Hydras alive,
Yeah, for sure, and you kind of have to take the scope of the game state, and it's not the highest tech army. The Vipers are a good supplement, but EnDerr, he's just getting like the 8th gas at his 4th base now, and economically wise, it's like very even. Terran's on 4 base. Terran's actually upping workers against Zerg. So if this game goes on, maybe if EnDerr can stabilize and get a decent army and take a really good fight, he can get something done. But Azure just needs to just keep tabs on the Zerg army, just trade, and I think as we head in the late game, I favor Azure in this game.
Yeah, I favor him a little bit more. Yo, the target fire is insane. Azure somehow, some way kills every single Baneling there. Only a single one remaining, and sure, EnDerr did get 2 tanks for that, but just quickly looking, he has 0 Banelings right now.
Yeah, that's right. And we see there's still only +1 armor here for EnDerr's army, and he's pushing this back. Whenever Azure goes on creep, it's a little risky, but with the tank support, this is getting quite scary now. And it looks like Azure, he might just continue to rally here, or he could just put some pressure on, and EnDerr's forced to back up, wait for Banelings, and yeah, it's looking pretty difficult, like.
Yeah, I hope Azure keeps the pressure up, and that's exactly what he's doing. He is taking things slow, though, like sieging up on this creep. He doesn't want to dive too deep, especially against a player like EnDerr, so he's really respecting his opponents. But again, with this massive army, EnDerr, he just doesn't really have the economy to sustain this. +2 armor did just finish up, and he is regenning that energy, gathering that energy on the Viper, so maybe he can still take a fight. Maybe.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic spread here by Azure. He's been afforded the time to really spread his tanks out, so I feel like EnDerr's gonna have to wait for him to maybe move forward a bit here, at least get a little bit deeper in, because this tank spread's insane, but he's going to try grab one tank here. Just the attack angle, he's coming from above as well, and it's a decent fight, all things considered, but that goes all his banes. He's only got a couple left, and look, it looks like with the reinforcement slide, I think EnDerr might be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah.
His Hydras are getting beat again.
The Hydras are being beaten down. We do have the Vipers going down one after the other as well. There's just no buffer for said Hydras. There's no kind of staying power here without any lurkers. As you were saying, it's a very fragile army, and we saw how fragile it really was as it just crumbled.
That's right, and EnDerr, he can't afford to lose his base, but he also can't afford to take the fight. He doesn't have enough units. As we see the base goes down, he's going to kind of push forward anyway, which is not a good idea after the base has already gone down. But 4-base Terran, there's 4-base Zerg, and when Terran is looking this strong, EnDerr's got 50 drones. I think this is the, I always say beginning of the end line, but it's the medium part of the end.
It's the end of the end, mate. We're done. Oh my god. Azure, his macro is on point. He hasn't been slipping up. What I will say is that it did take him a while to get a 5th base, but you could argue that he didn't need it, and now he finally is taking that 5th base. Again, he's crossing his T's, he's dotting his I's. You know, he's being very punctual about this game and how he closes this out. Ooh, a little bit of a Ling run by though, so finally some economic damage, but it's too late, puppy. It's too late.
Yeah, that's right. When your army is kind of has got no chance against the main army, you know, and you send something to Ling run by, it's you know they can probably just walk right into what's left of your army. But he does salvage those units, bring the Zerglings back, and yeah, he does now have lurkers. But again, it's you know, Terran's knocking on the doorstep of this 3rd base. This Azure takes a 5th base as well. It's just a little too late, like.
Yeah.
It's a little too late.
I mean, to be fair, if Asher was here, he'd be like, mate, the lurkers are coming out, GG. You know? that's all you need. Unfortunately, these are lair tech lurkers. You know, lurker range is still on the way. EnDerr wasn't really set up to transition into this. He was relying a lot more on the Ling Bane Hydra instead. He's going for a counterattack, which, I mean, props to him. He's going to be able to maybe take a bit of a fight here, but Azure, he's got a choice to make. He just runs on forward.
Yeah, he leaves a couple lurkers at home, perhaps just to kind of bait Azure. You know, there's lurkers here, don't push in. But, you know, seeing the few units going across the map, seeing the lurkers accompanying them, it looks like, yeah, it's just another base going down. And again, Azure's still on 4 base once he gets that 5th sat down. But, yeah, it's just EnDerr, he's... Look at this to play like.
Thought you were Italian, not French.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Oh god, as we see a mass counterattack here for EnDerr, again trying to take fights as he can, and he is trading relatively efficiently here across the map. Azure is taking his sweet time pushing up this ramp, don't get us wrong. Finally Ghosts are coming out for Azure. That'll make short work of these lurkers, but he doesn't even need a mate. Look how many tanks he has.
There's a lot of tanks, and it's like, yeah, once you get to this choke point, how do you engage this? You can't. It's really, you know, EnDerr's done a good job to kind of disrupt the 3rd base, but with Ghosts coming out too, there's no way he can just kind of find a counter deal with these Ghosts, because he's only on 4 bases himself, and his main's already mined out. So and he's doing well to kind of delay the inevitable, but as this game goes on, and with the upgrades now kicking in, those Lings only have +2 armor, whereas, you know, the buy was 3/3.
Exactly. I mean, props to EnDerr for, like, again, being as annoying as possible across the map and maybe attacking the mental state of Azure a little bit here. Like, oh god, these goddamn Zerg players. But we see a match up into the main base. Lurkers, ooh, are almost focused down as well. Like, there's still no real way to engage this mass army. Bases are falling left and right. Hive is under threat. Spawning pool even got sniped earlier. I didn't even notice that, but it's being rebuilt, so EnDerr can't even make Lings.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things he can't really make at this point, as we got Hydras in the way. The Lurker's futile, like, kind of holding onto the ramp, is now trying to jump on the tanks. Really good Blinding Cloud. You've got to give him credit, as he might actually clean these tanks up, but yeah, it's just it's a battle at numbers at this point, like.
Wait, hold on. Okay, wait, is EnDerr actually on Copium? Because Azure doesn't really have a lot of mining going on right now. He's still, okay, he finally lands this base, but he's got like 2 base mining, kind of. He doesn't have a bank. It's kind of what I'm looking at right now. He can't actually make an army.
Yeah, actually, he's going to get this base at the top, but the 5th base is not really mining at all. He's got an overstack kind of 4th.
Yeah.
There's another Ling run by no planetary in sight. This is quite interesting. I still feel like Azure, you know, for the mobility and the resource available, is the favorite in this case, but Yeah, it's a bit of copium, isn't it?
Yeah, like am I on copium? I kind of feel like EnDerr can actually still win this. Like, look at the supplies. Like, he has kind of evened things up a little bit. He does have one mining base here, fully saturated as well. He can fight like these small segments of Azure's army. I do agree. I think together, if Azure consolidates, he can win. But right now, he's split up.
Yeah, he might throw a parasitic bomb to get those medevacs, but as he cleans up here, you know, Azure, you should be pushing into the third base. There he saves me.
Yoink, puppy, yoink!
But actually, like, we see the 5th base being lifted by Azure.
Yeah.
He's kind of running away. Is it due to a lurker? Yes, it is. And
yeah, the lurker forces a lift up. We have creep here. Like, Azure is barely mining, mate. He's on 1 base economy. Like, if we combine these two and that's it, like, he just doesn't have, he can't spend his money. He doesn't have any money. What is happening?
yeah, he's kind of been neglecting his macro a bit, and these ghosts are going to be really important as we head into the even later stages of this game, the scrappiness. And I guess the one thing that Azure, you know, he does have 3 orbitals, as he's got a floating base as well, which should be really helpful. But EnDerr, you know, I don't like this light because it gives Azure a reason to complain about lurkers again.
Oh my
But,
god.
ooh, this is the fighty ones.
This is the fighting ones. We have the blinding cloud. Another tank goes down. A second tank goes down as well. We do have a snipe, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, mate. Pushing up a ramp into lurkers. I don't know if this is the right move.
Yeah, Ghost Snipe's going off. It looks like Azure's just barely going to have enough units to hold on. The lurkers trying to stand. But it looks like just barely with the ghosts available. And Azure can now safely take this base at the 12 o'clock position. And what does EnDerr have?
That fight
one
was
base mate.
that fight was uncomfortably close. Because I could hear it. I could the goddamn lunkies, mate. I could hear in Azure's voice as well. Oh my god, I can't believe that EnDerr is making it as close as it is. He's expanding right now. He's taking his 2nd mining base now. He kept one of his rifles alive. We still have a couple more lurkers. He's still kind of in this, but this is a pretty important base for Azure.
Yeah, 100%. As we kind of see now, you can get the planetary, and in this stage of the game, planetaries are really, really good. You need a lot of firepower to take down a repaired planetary with SCVs. But yeah, Azure's scouting the right side. He's not going to see the base taken at the bottom, however.
Yeah.
But that's where EnDerr's expanding to. So yeah, all things considered, we have a lair on the way now by EnDerr, and This is a true EnDerr game, isn't it?
It is, mate. That 22-minute lair timing. Let's go. Look at the vision here of Azure. He scouts with the drop. He confirms the base. Yo, this is completely exposed. This is so important. The entire mineral line is going to go down here. EnDerr was not in position.
Yeah, no, not at all. As we see the creep kind of isolated from this position too, and Azure is going to try to focus those drones down, and he's going to get picked up at 11 workers at this stage of the game. Like, in this part of the world, entirely localized within Berlingrad. So,
yeah, that's honestly pretty huge, mate. The economy is in shambles for both players, to be fair. There's the power bomb. The medevac is gonna go down. At the same time, it looks like the lurkers tried to push in towards the fresh base of Azure, but they couldn't quite make it in. What's important is Azure now has eyes on his next targets. He knows where the mining bases are. He can send more drops here, and now EnDerr has to spread himself a little bit more thin.
yeah, and as we were kind of saying earlier, like with this amount of lurkers, I feel like I don't know. I know what's about with Oceanic Zergs, sorry, Oceanic Terran players, but they kind of sometimes just ape into them. So as we see here,
the ghost, no.
as we see here, like I don't know if it's a patience thing or if it's you need to support your ghost when you go forward like this. It's a bit of disrespect. As reasonable trades, like Azure, he's looking better in this game. But if that keeps up, you know, we'll be back on copium.
Chase, I don't want Azure to lose for the narrative, mate. I don't want him to lose, mate. It's not good.
Just send him a clip of those ghosts, man. That's all you need to do.
This is not a good thing, Chase. Meanwhile, EnDerr, he's still droning up. These bases are getting up and running, but here we go. A drop is on the way. Azure, he's not going to let EnDerr get away with this. Hopefully not, as the drop is on the way. Meanwhile, this main army is still looking quite solid. Like, in a head-on-head engagement, Azure should be able to take it, but other things do factor in. Like, he has to make sure he has enough energy for scan. He has to be able to actually get on top of these lurkers. Does see them, but I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if he's too scared to move out now. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You really have to respect your Zerg opponent when they have lurkers on the map. You don't know where they're burrowed. You don't know what's waiting for you. So you can kind of understand the angle Azure's taking by just kind of chilling, but in the same space, it's allowing EnDerr to utilize that gas bank. Good harassment, however, keeping the Zerg on the toes, denying mining. But if this game goes on, EnDerr, he could get quite a big enough army to actually take a good fight as it happens. So.
I 100% agree. Like, even though Azure has the army supply lead right now, I do think EnDerr has enough to take it despite that, if the engagement is good enough. Meanwhile, we see mass scans coming out from here from Azure. We have a lot of idle SCVs as well. I hope Azure eventually, there we go, he expands and takes the top right base. His main is floating on over. And soon Azure is gonna max out, but soon EnDerr also is gonna max out.
Yeah, for sure. We actually see like the scans kind of confirm like the top right part of the map is a bit easier to take than the bottom left where EnDerr's expanding to. It's also a bit more choky, where as you bring these liberators and ghosts into account. But oh, never mind. Hold that thought. EnDerr's just gonna go for it.
He just goes for a mate, almost gets a free tank, but again, Azure is completely out of position. You don't want to be pushing into these lurkers. Almost gets an orbital base, and I don't know if Azure can really push into this.
Yeah, look at this slide. EnDerr's turned an offensive kind of opportunity into a defensive kind of posture here as Azure. He's isolated from his production. There's Lings at his natural, and the ghosts are going to try come in again. There's no detection, going to force the lurkers up. Then a really good move. Check out the supply. EnDerr's actually ahead now.
Yeah, he's ahead. The Lings are getting into the base, they're getting into the production, but thankfully, we don't have detection for EnDerr. We do have one Overseer with the main army, but it wasn't where it needed to be. And that's what I mean, man. He's going for it again. Sure, he left his text exposed. No!
He did indeed. It's ended up posturing to the other side. And, Azure, it looks like he should be okay, but he should just back up at this point. You don't have to defend the sensor tower. You can just hold back. But just, it looks like he's going to take the fight and he's going to win it.
And it's going to come out on top, mate. He's mining happily here. He's expanding. He's taking another base. EnDerr has taken a massive supply lead. GG gets called, and EnDerr does it. No.
Like, that's not lurkers, okay? I mean, what's the 5 stages of grief? I'm in denial right now. That was
ESL. Don't
that was
look at this
masterfully
game.
played. Well done.
Asher was right all along. If he was casting when the lurkers came out, he would have called it, mate. He would have called it.
If Asher was actually casting. True. But yeah, no. All things aside, it was very tactically well played by EnDerr. Just the moves he was making, kind of turning those offensive moves into defensive ones with the lurkers and the vipers. Really impressive just to hang on there. Like, he was down to a 4th base and a half ruined natural. He lost his hive, lost his spawning pool. We actually got to think back too, like, to when he caught those, was it 4 or 5 tanks with the viper, 3 lurkers and a couple of Lings? Like, could they have made the difference? But really crazy play there by EnDerr.
It really is. Like, shout out to EnDerr for being as tenacious as he is and for sticking in it for as long as he did. Like, we thought we 100% were counting him out at a certain point there. Like, Azure was ahead 100 supply. It was like, there's no way this doesn't go Azure's way. But we saw that. I think there were multiple factors, not just how EnDerr was playing, but also it did feel like Azure was playing very scared. Like, there were multiple moments where he had a large army and he wasn't really making use of that. He was just kind of posturing a little bit and just allowing EnDerr to have that time to get back into the game. And you pointed it out, that 5th base, it took a long time to get up and running. It took a long time to saturate.
That it did indeed. And Light, I must point out that you were the one that pointed it out. You have been promoted to backup caster senior. But yes, here we go, game number 2. And keep in mind, that was Berlingrad, good map for Terran. So here we go. In the top right here is the blue Terran. Is he going to be able to bounce back on? Is it Glittering Ashes? This is Glittering Ashes, right?
Hardwire, what the hell are you on?
Oh, on Hardwire, yeah. He's representing himself. It is Azure.
It's moments like this, right? I don't know why you try to push yourself as the main caster, man. I don't.
Like, they look the same to me, okay?
God damn it. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the Filipino Zerg player himself, currently up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. How does he do it? Representing the Juggernauts, it is EnDerr. Single-handedly about to get the nerf in for lurkers.
I was gonna say, like, you say, how does he do it? I'll give you one very big reason.
Oh.
And yeah, here we go again. Big shout to Ozprotos in the chat. 500 bits. That's as many Marines as the lurkers killed last game. But thank you. I'm glad you appreciate having us in. See, like, this is why I'm the main caster. We pulled the support.
Yes, massive shout out to Oz Protos. I see even Asher in the chat is chiming in. He's like, I couldn't have gone through that cast. Oh god, I could feel the smoging from Melbourne coming in through the window, and it's all from Asher's apartment.
Smells like copium and cigarette smoke and sweat. But yeah, like, we have a hatch first. What do you think? The first thing we're going to want to look at here is, how does EnDerr, what does he do if he's gassed? Does he keep on? Is he going to take off this time? Because Overlord speed, such as we saw last game, it's a really good defensive safety tool, but it can be aggressive as well.
Yeah, like, I want to try and piece it together, and I want to believe that the only reason why EnDerr went for Overlord speed was because of the map, was because, historically, it's a little bit more difficult to scout the Terran opponent there because you don't have a perp pillar like this, right? Specifically on Berlingrad. So maybe he was trying to make up for that here. I say maybe, but as I say that, EnDerr still doesn't pull out of gas.
Doesn't pull out indeed. We're staying on gas. You know what this means? Like, we're tech into 2-base Broodlord as Azure lost his Reaper. Which will be very helpful in defending those Broodlings, but unfortunately, Azure's finding quite a bit of minerals, so is he going to put in a third TC here?
Puppy!
Right. That's my favorite building you're looking at.
Oh, mate, it's the only building, mate. Let's go. A Roach Horn is thrown down, and I want to believe that this was solely because the Reaper was killed. Now, EnDerr, he's like, yo, I know that you have just lost all your scouting information. You cannot confirm what the hell I'm doing. Last game, I also stayed on 2 bases, and I didn't do anything crazy. I just took a delayed third because I'm EnDerr, and now it's an intentional 2-base play. Oh, boy.
Intentional. For now on, like, I'm gonna like classify that as all my, like, intentional from the start 2-base players. And this was I did it reactively. As we say, 7 roaches in the way. And keep in mind, like, he can afford to kind of go, like, a bit heavier on the roaches here because the Reaper can't scout the 3rd base, and by the time the Hellions do, we have another fusion core on the way.
I don't like this.
This is so greedy.
It is, right? Like, going for the fusion core means, any kind of Banshee is going to be delayed. Any other kind of, like, just units in general are going to be delayed for this tech. We'll see if the BC can get out before EnDerr gets across the map with his roaches. Uh-oh.
Yeah, and this is actually fantastic play by EnDerr here. These lings across the map, he's using the poke, kind of keep the Hellions at home to prevent the scouting. And Azure, he's so in the dark right now and taking the BC. Even though he's going to be losing these lings, like the shock from these roaches coming in, and he's droning straight away too. This is going to do so much damage. Like, the BC's just started.
Exactly, as you were saying, Azure, he hasn't seen whether or not there is a 3rd base. The roaches finally reveal themselves. We do see the Hellions immediately evacuate. The Natural immediately evacuates as well. So Azure is going to be reducing the damage that he's about to take, but he's still going to lose depots. He's still stuck on 1 base economy.
Yeah, and actually, it seems like EnDerr just kind of wants to just chill out and just shoot some depots down supply blockers. So he's going to come up the ramp now, but there's a couple more Hellions and also, like, the Marine out. And Light, you kind of have to look at this. Like, if that battle cruiser gets out because he went roaches, it's not going to be the most queen. So there is the potential for counterplay here by Azure.
There is. Thankfully, the roaches actually scouted the tech lab on that starport. They also saw that it wasn't researching, so EnDerr should be able to piece it together, and immediately he throws down spores. He's trying to get anti-air. He's trying to get queens, but as you were pointing out, there's just not that many queens. There's 4 queens in total. That BC, there's potential there. There's a lot of potential.
It is potential indeed. Every battle cruiser has potential in the hands of a player like Azure, but oh, instant teleport. So he's going for the kill, probably seeing the roaches prompting him to jump. But look at this, repositioning the Spore Queens everywhere, and he's going to be forced to kind of back out. Does transfuse the Queen too.
Yeah, keeps all the queens alive so far. Only 2 drones are going down. This is a beautiful response here from EnDerr. Again, didn't have a lot to work with, but the positioning was just on point. And the BC, just like the last game, only 2 worker kills.
Yeah, really good kind of hold there by EnDerr, but I feel like he's maybe, he's only lost 2 workers this game, but he's just had 11 workers pop to even up the worker count. So Azure thankfully is on 2 bases, but I'm curious what he's been spending all his money on, mate.
Yeah, like he's trying to recover, you know. I mean, he just doesn't drone up in general a lot of the time. It's just hashtag EnDerr things. Meanwhile, do you see this massive counterattack? Can he get more SCVs? And he is actually target firing a couple of them down.
Yeah, you see he's getting those Hellions too in case of a counterattack, because he'll have to remake Lings if the Hellions live. BC number 2 popping as well, and we have this Aspire on the way, but 9 workers, not bad. Pretty reasonable, especially considering this game, with the delayed 3rd CC. But yeah, with he's forced to remake more Lings because there's Hellions in the field, and we have 2 BCs now, mate.
We do. Thankfully, one of them is at half HP. Azure unfortunately didn't send it back to get repaired, but we do have the multi-prong attack being set up here. 2 BCs and Hellions. Does EnDerr have enough to defend? I do think that his queens may be enough, especially with the support of the spores, but if they get pulled away out of position by the BCs, the Hellions are going to do so much damage.
But all you need to say was queens is enough. As we say, actually, Hellions run right past. Really good to catch, however, and I would like to see him go on the main here, seeing all the queens over here, and yes, he does, and queens scuttling away straight ahead. Where is this Spire? Is he going to be able to spot it? We have +1 range coming light. This is a really interesting mix of kind of choices here by EnDerr.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to what this is for, especially because he hasn't stopped producing queens. His creep threat is looking pretty good as well. He may just push out with them. I'm really curious. Meanwhile, ooh, the BCs do manage to teleport away, and not bad. This time they get 12 worker kills.
Yeah, really good. Teleporting home, I guess, to save the BCs from those queens, but he had plenty of Marines to deal with the small Ling attack that was coming through. But yeah, it looks like Roaches is going to be the unit of choice. Perhaps seeing the battle cruisers, you might think he's going into mech, but now that he's seen those Marines, what's the play here? Because a Roach, I guess, just go for a overwhelming Roach Ravager timing because there's a lack of tanks, but I'm not sure how that will go in this kind of tucked away 3rd base position.
Yeah, that's a good question because the tank count is slowly getting higher. We do have 2 tanks on the field now. We still have our BCs defensively as well. I'm curious as to what EnDerr plans to do here, because in my mind, it feels like he wants to go for a big push and maybe try to end the game. But it's EnDerr, so really he wants to macro up. And he, interestingly enough, goes for mutas and not corruptors.
Yeah, I feel like this is a small kind of immune account, maybe to force a bit of a Thor tech switch, but hold that thought, like we've got a raid from McCanning. Big up to the Protoss King himself, thank you so much. We are casting the HomeStory Cup Oceania qualifiers, so welcome everyone, welcome aboard.
Yeah.
You just missed a crazy game 1, but this game it's getting there. It's getting
exactly. Massive shout out to the Can Man himself with the massive raid. Thank you so much, Papi. We appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed your stream. But here we are in the Oceania qualifiers. BCs do rock up. Yamato's down 2 of the queens immediately, and isn't going to be enough to be able to push on all the way through, but not bad damage whatsoever. And the mutas still haven't really paid for themselves. They get a couple of workers, but the BCs rock up just in time to defend.
Yeah, I really like this BC kind of teleport back home. You notice he had them in the main to kind of cut off the path because the main turrets weren't finished yet. They've just finished up now, and the Marines are at the 3rd. So that's the thing. When you have Yamatos, you can just dip in, kill a queen or 2, kill a roach or something, and get back home. It's technically free damage, but EnDerr's going to come back in. I'm not sure if he really needs to make any thoughts, as he sees the mute count hasn't grown at all. It's still quite small, and yeah, interesting to see. EnDerr's now going into a lot of Lingbane light.
Yeah, he's transitioning back into Lingbane Muta. The era of roaches have come and gone. It is a bit of a shame that he did invest into that +1 range. His upgrades are a little bit awkward now because of that, but he is trying to adapt back into a much more standard style. Even incorporating some corruptors as well, respecting those BCs, making sure he can deal with them and they don't wreak havoc from the skies. And yeah, we're getting into a much more, I guess, almost standard game. We're getting
Yeah, indeed. He still seems on the production tab. He just added in a couple more roaches have just popped too, and this really looks like a unit composition you'd probably see versus mech. You know, bits and bots of everything, just kind of having different tiers of range to kind of minimize the splash very quick. Yeah, infestation pick going down. This time getting a fast carapace, but light. I'm curious to see like. Is he going to go into Lunkers here that helped him so much previously? Good Ravager Snake. It's 2 Ravagers. Oh, is he just going to just go mass low tier unit?
That's a good question here. I mean, this Swarm Zerg style, you can find a lot of success with this. He can go into Lurkers because he has +1 range. So, you know, it wouldn't be such an awkward transition to get there. Meanwhile, the Biles are going to connect. And can he get the BC? Oh!
No, he does not.
Oh, that was so
really
close.
good moves there. Yeah, by EnDerr to kind of catch the BC, but unfortunately it gets away. Also, like I love it when you say it's a good question. It makes me feel like I am indeed the best caster of the two. But yeah, EnDerr's on the map now. It looks like he wants to be aggressive, but at the same time as Azure too.
Yeah, both armies are actually missing each other right now. Unfortunately, Azure doesn't have a sensor tower in position. Here we go. The Ling Bane is rolling on in, and Azure, he's got to make a choice. Does he turn around or does he keep going?
Yeah, Azure, like what happens here? I don't know. I feel like EnDerr's just kind of won the game with this move. Like Azure, he can jump in, but just a few Banelings back at home, and you know you're fully on creep. You're gonna be forced to lift up. There's Mutas and Corruptors in the air. I feel like this was expertly done. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. But EnDerr just played this phenomenally. Wow.
Yeah, every single worker is going down across the map, but now EnDerr can turn around and come back home. How good are the splits as Azure is deep on creep?
Deep on creep indeed. All the Banelings, they do get shaved off, and Lings are returning. Bit of an awkward fight for EnDerr actually. Azure, he's got those Marines, but Banelings, a Swarm Host on the way as well. Like you know what that means. This is panicking.
The lovely token Swarm Host that we see from time. We see almost every other game. Here we go. The Banelings are being morphed in. Can Azure dive on them? He's going to try to, but the Banelings finish up just in time.
Yeah, no, actually, here we go. And as we see the lift off, and there's nowhere to go. He's just dancing. But yeah, I think that EnDerr takes game number 2.
GG, well played. EnDerr does take the game and the series 2-0, but again, I highly recommend people checking out the VOD of the game number 1 because game 1 was wild. I cannot believe that EnDerr was somehow able to win that, but yeah, with that, he moves on to the next round.
Yeah, no, that was that happened in a blink of eye. Like the first game, it was very slow, very drawn out. That game, it was looking even, but just EnDerr, he like when you had that good creep spread, and Terran's moving out, you can kind of justify doing those huge scale run bys because as we saw, as long as you get a decent number of Banelings on creep back at home and the tank count is not crazy, as we saw, you know, we had Mutas that game and we had BCs, so the tanks were delayed, and it just kind of. He just, again, tactically just played really well. And unfortunately for Azure, I don't know if there's a lower bracket, but he's going to have to, you know, drop down for now. But well played, EnDerr.
Yeah. I mean, if there are any Azure fans in the chat, do not fret because there is a lower bracket here. It is a double elimination qualifier. In the end, only one player will make it through, but everyone has a second life that they can rely on. So Azure will have another chance. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does make a deep run because he's a great player. But again, congratulations to EnDerr for moving on here. The 2-0, not the cleanest 2-0, but a 2-0 nonetheless. We got to respect that. And he moves on to face another Australian player.